All right, good morning, church. Hope you guys are enjoying the book of Matthew and our reading and Judges. I wanted to jump into Matthew 15 this morning. Just pull out some observations. Again, something that really stuck out to me, and I feel like it's a word to encourage the body with. So just jump in Matthew 15, coming out of 14 where Jesus feeds the thousands and does all this stuff. And then, the Pharisees and the religious leaders, well, the scribes, they came to Jesus from Jerusalem in chapter 15, it says, and they ask him a question. They say, Jesus, why do your disciples break the traditions? Why do they not wash their hands when they eat, but they eat with undefiled hands? And, Jesus kind of challenges them back. And he says, why do you yourselves transgress the commandments of God for the sakes of your traditions? For God has said, honor your father and mother, and whoever speaks evil against father and mother should be put to death. That's a pretty harsh sentence just for back talking to mom and dad. All you kids better listen to that one. But seriously, Jesus says, hey, you say that whoever gives the money that they should have given to their mom and dad to help out, they're good. You're breaking that because it doesn't say that in the Word of God. And so Jesus is here challenging them and saying, man, you guys actually are doing exactly what you're talking about. You're breaking the commandments of God for your man-made traditions. And, he goes on further in this chapter to talk about like how these people honor God with their lips, but their heart is far from him. He quotes Isaiah, I think it's 29. And, he's really appealing to the heart here. He's saying, man, you religious leaders, your heart's in the wrong place. You say these things, you do these things, you set up these traditions, and you mislead people big time. And so, going forward, he breaks off and he gets the crowds and he tells them, hey, listen, it's not even what goes into your mouth that defiles you, but it's actually what comes out of your mouth. Because whatever goes into your mouth goes through your stomach and it's eliminated, but it's actually what comes out of your mouth, because it exposes your heart. It's what's in there. Your heart is desperately wicked. And so he challenges and he's teaching, the crowds and saying, like, look at these guys. And his disciples say, hey, Jesus, do you know that the Pharisees and the leaders, they were offended that you said this? And he's like, just leave them alone. Those guys are like blind people leading blind. Every plant that my father didn't plant, it'll just be uprooted. It'll be taken out. So just let them do what they're doing. They're blind people leading blind people. And in traditions, in man-made things, right? Like washing your hands, not necessarily a bad thing, but is that really what you're worried about? Like washing your hands? Really, God is looking at the heart, right? He's looking for a person with a broken and contrite heart that honors him with the little bit that he even has, as opposed to a person that has much and asks for much. And so I want to really jump into what stuck out to me, and then Peter, right? Peter says, hey, can you explain the parable to us? And Jesus kind of gets like upset and says, dang, Peter, like, are you still lacking understanding? You don't understand this. So he explains the parable to him. And then he breaks off and he goes into a region, and I think it's in the region of Tyre and Sidon. And a Canaanite woman, and I'm in verse 21 now, and a Canaanite woman from that region came out and began to cry out, have mercy on me, Lord, Son of David. My daughter is cruelly demon-possessed. So a Canaanite woman, there's a little bit of context here I think that needs to be explained. This woman is not, the people of God, Israel, Jewish people. She's not them. Actually, they have conflict with one another. So for her to come up to Jesus and ask for this miracle that he would deliver her is a big deal. She's like crossing cultural boundaries and just a whole bunch of backdrop there. But she comes out and you look at this woman and she's like screaming, like, have mercy, please. My daughter is cruelly demon possessed. Have mercy. And it goes on to say, But he did not answer a word. And his disciples came and implored him, saying, "Send her away, because she keeps on shouting at us." But he answered and said, "I was sent only to the lost sheep of the house of Israel." But she came and began to bow down before him, saying, "Lord, help me." And he said, "It's not good to take the children's bread and throw it to the dogs." But she said, "Yes, Lord, but even the dogs feed on the crumbs that fall from the master's table." Then Jesus said to her, "O woman, your faith is great. It shall be done for you as you have wished." And her daughter was healed at once. So the posture of this woman, right? She comes, the disciples are like, "Man, just get her away. She keeps bugging and yelling." And Jesus sounds like he kind of is rude with her. He says, it's not good to give the food of the children to the dogs. And I don't think he's really being rude. He's just really calling something out of her. He's calling something out that he sees in her. He sees a faith in her that's different even than the disciples' faith. And she just falls down and she surrenders. Some people would say she's just, saying Lord in the lowercase L, but she gets on her knees and says, "Lord, please have mercy." And she is surrendering to Jesus and saying, "I need your help." And as he calls out her faith by saying, "Hey, it's not good to give the children's food to the dogs," she says, "Yeah, but even the dogs eat the crumbs that fall from the tables from the master," right? And this heart that she has, it is like, "Blessed are the poor in spirit, for theirs is the kingdom of heaven," right? This is a heart where she realized she has nothing. She deserves nothing. She brought nothing to the table. She's actually an enemy, and yet she comes and surrenders and puts herself before him. And I think this is what Jesus rejoices in when he says, "This woman, your faith is outstanding." Sometimes some of us come to Jesus thinking that he owes us something. And don't get me wrong, his promises are for you if you're a child of God. But maybe even before then, when you came to him, you came thinking that you had something good in you, that you brought something to the table. But the word of God says that God rejoices in a broken and contrite spirit, because that's where he can work. He wants us to be humble people. Even in our reading in Judges, you see that Gideon, yesterday, his response, right? He's like, "Hey, how would you use somebody like me? My family's like the smallest and I'm like the youngest. How would you use somebody like me?" God always goes after those people that have a humble heart. God works with that. The word of God says that he will exalt the humble and give grace to them, but the proud he will despise. You look at David, same thing. Youngest guy in the family, even overlooked. They're like, "Surely it can't be that bad." That's the one that God went after. You look at Moses, the guy who said, "How can I speak? I stutter." And still God uses him, a stuttering guy, right? You look at Abraham. These people are all people that walked in humility with faith. So there's something about humility with faith together, that they're tied together. And so I just feel like it's an encouraging word to see this woman's posture, her heart, realizing, "I don't deserve it. You're right. But I'll take the crumbs. All I need is the crumbs. You're that good." And I pray that as we minister to people, that God ministers to us, and that we minister to one another, that we realize, I'll take the crumbs. I'll take anything I can get from you, God. And that we have this relentless heart to bow before our King and say, "God, have mercy on us. Have mercy, please. Have mercy on the people of this city. Have mercy on the healthcare system. Have mercy on our leaders in this country. Have mercy on the church, God, and grow us and show us how we could live." I encourage you guys just to cry out for the mercy of God this day with a broken and contrite heart. I love you guys. I hope this word challenges you and encourages you. This book is such an awesome book. I love it. I love the book of Matthew. Be blessed, guys.